Arc Dream Publishing previews 2 upcoming scenarios for the Delta Green RPG, Fantasy Flight Game previews soon-to-be-released expansions for its Arkham Files games, and Arkham Knights 2019 is right around the corner. Welcome to another Arkham News Roundup. I'm your host, Nate, and in this series I highlight news, product releases, and major community events within the Cthulhu gaming world from the previous month. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to become one of the many that are lost in time and space. As always, links to all topics discussed in this video will be linked down below. Be sure to stay tuned until the end of the video for a special announcement, but for now, let's get right into the news. Starting off with Arc Dream Publishing, the folks behind the Delta Green RPG, recently announced 2 new scenarios for the previously mentioned Delta Green. To briefly summarize for those who are unaware, Delta Green is a modern-day investigation game where players take on the roles of agents for a secret, undercover, and unsanctioned government organization to track down and neutralize threats of the mythos, which this game dubs as
the unnatural.
The first scenario, Ex Oblivion, sees the agents investigating a gruesome crime in the haunted desert.
The past is bloody teeth, which still hunger. Something evil has stirred in a tiny desert town. It haunts the area like the thin clouds which taint the sky each morning, turning the sun blood red. Sometimes it is thick and choking. Other times, it's a sky so barely there it is easy to forget it exists at all. It holds the people in check. Only Black Flatop and Sun Devils wait for them each and every day. But few ever leave, and the evil around them can no longer be denied. A gruesome crime draws Delta Green to the haunted desert. Bodies have been ritualistically mutilated. Bizarre words carved into the drywall speak to the insanity of the killer, and to Delta Green, the urgency of the investigation.
Home denied. Home, yai for I. Sea to the sea.
Taking its name from a short story written by Lovecraft, the scenario as of the recording of this video has been delayed a bit. According to a Reddit post made by Rachel Ivey, Arc Dream's director of marketing, it might take, quote, a little longer. Patience is a virtue after all. The second scenario, Hourglass, begins with a video of a woman in a small town park suddenly vanishing, screaming in pain.
In an internet video already viral, a middle-aged, dark-haired, harried-looking woman stands on a park bench in a small town park. She is crying and shouting at a handful of befuddled people. She says they live with a place that does awful things. They accept it into their community. They take its money, and it takes women and children. It takes them, and it... Suddenly she vanishes, screaming in agony. The handful of people in the crowd scream in fright and recoil. The young man holding the phone shouts, "Whoa!" He turns the camera towards himself, a white teenager, and says to the camera, "You see that? What the f?" The camera jostles and the video stops. The agents are in a secure meeting room in the FBI offices in Portland, Oregon. Their case officer turns off the video screen and gives the rest of their briefing. It is 10 a.m. on a Thursday.
The premise of Hourglass has me very intrigued. Initial playtesters of the scenario held it in high regard, many finding the story enticing and well fleshed out. I think it's safe to say that the scenario will see its release in November rather than October, given the delay on Ex Oblivion. In other news, Arc Dream Publishing also published their King in Yellow panel from Necronomicon back in late August. If you haven't already, be sure to give that a listen. In the same vein as Arc Dream, Fantasy Flight Games also previewed 3 scenarios for upcoming expansions to the Arkham Files games. Starting with
Silence of Kitsagua.
The second scenario included in the now available Dead of Night expansion for Arkham Horror 3rd Edition. This scenario begins with, quote,
"The nights of Arkham are stretching to unnatural lengths, and its citizens are lapsing into torpid sleep. Even in daylight, the city is muted and dull, the sun never fully cresting the unknown mountains on the horizon. The moon never sets, and at times casts a greenish hue, revealing unfamiliar stone buildings and rocky airy promontories as though the landscape of Arkham overlaps some other place. Even worse, strange creatures are seen on the prowl. Shapeless black monstrosities and flying clawed humanoids haunt the dark streets of Arkham, Can you investigators unravel the mystery surrounding the dead of night before the unknowable evil devours Arkham while it's lulled into a never-ending slumber?
Looking at the map setup, the vertical layout of Arkham may throw a wrench in unprepared investigators' plans, with only one way in or out of Northside. Worse, the city is overrun with Migo, such as the grasping fungus and the downright terrifying cerebral extractor. Ugh. I don't want to know what goes into the Migo brain case, do I? Dead of Night is now available wherever you get your games. Stepping into the Mansions of Madness, the second preview I wanted to highlight is for the Lost Temple of Yig scenario, for the soon-to-be-released Path of the Serpent expansion, for Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition.
In ancient halls of stone, serpent priests attempt to reforge their broken bonds with their god, Yig. Their success could herald the end of humanity unless you can pass the mysterious trials of the temple and put a stop to the nefarious plot first.
Lost Temple of Yig sports a difficulty rating of 5 and can be played in roughly about 2 hours. Keeping in line with the perceived difficulty of previous Arkham Files games set in the jungle, looking at you, TFA, this scenario introduces a new Rubble token, which prevents the players caught underneath it from performing various actions until they can clear the rubble away. Rubble isn't the only new twist thrown into the mix, however. Locations are randomly drawn from a pool rather than being pre-built alternate maps, adding extra replayability. I always enjoy a good pulp adventure through the jungle, and I'm sure this take will be up to par. The Path of the Serpent for Mansions of Madness is due by the end of the year 2019. The last preview from FFG I want to highlight this month is 1,000 Shapes of Horror, the second Mythos pack and Scenario 2B of the Dream Eaters campaign for the Arkham LCG. For those unfamiliar, rather than a typical 8-part campaign like The Dunwich Legacy or the previously mentioned Forgotten Age, the new Dream Eaters campaign is split into 2 4-part campaigns that can be played individually or interwoven to form a larger narrative. Taking inspiration from Lovecraft's The Unnameable, this scenario sees the investigators searching a long-abandoned house for a way to enter the Dreamlands with their physical bodies, to hopefully put a stop to the 2 worlds from merging. You would think that from the last creepy house they entered up on the French Hill that the investigators would learn to not enter old creepy houses, but hey, that's just me. Continuing their recent trend, FFG is offering 4 5x7 art prints for those who pre-order this product on their website. The article continues by spoiling a few of the player cards included in this Mythos pack. Otherworld Codex, a new tome for Seekers that lets them search the top 9 of the encounter deck for a copy of a non-elite enemy in play and discard it. Ethereal Form gives Mystics a new means of evading enemies and introduces the Ethereal keyword. Let God Sort Them Out gives rogues a bunch of hoops to jump through in order to gain an extra victory point, and Versatile lets any investigator add 5 more cards to their deck, one of which can be from any other class. 1,000 Shapes of Horror is likely to be released before the new year. My guess is around the end of November, based on the release of the Dream Eaters at the end of September. In other news, Arkham Knights 2019 has been officially announced and is right around the corner. This celebration of madness and horror occurs annually at FFG's Gaming Center in Roseville, Minnesota. From October 11th to the 13th, attendees will have the chance to play upcoming Arkham Files products, potentially take part in designing a card for the Arkham LCG, and walk away with some really cool swag. Tickets are still available, so if you're interested in attending, be sure to follow the link down below. I unfortunately won't be making it to Arkham Knights this year because I'll be attending
Arkham Beneath the Waves.
Hosted by fellow co-host of the Great Old Ones Gaming, Nathan Early, Beneath the Waves is a day-long event dedicated to the Arkham LCG, being held at Guardian Games in Portland, Oregon this October 27th. Details for the event can be found on the Great Old Ones website along with the event page on Facebook. I hope to see you there. But that's going to do it for this month's Arkham News Roundup. Which upcoming product sparks your interest the most? Are you attending either Arkham Knights or Beneath the Waves this year? And was there any other important news that I had missed that you feel is worth sharing? Be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. I've been your host, Nate, and I'll see you all the next time you're
Lost in time space.